Chapter 126 of Blue Lock is out, and Shidou is loose. The demon is on the field. How will Blue Lock handle him? Let's break it down. Hey everyone, Bruce Destructoid Anime here. Monkey D. Gucci, Laundry Room Bruce. You know what it is. I hope you're doing well. I am, because we're talking about the latest chapter of Blue Lock, chapter 126. And if my voice sounds a little stuffy, guys, I am coming off a cold, so please forgive me for that. For like kind of this audio issues or my voice issues, bear with me on that. But feeling better, and I'm happy to talk about Blue Lock today because I was worried I wasn't going to get the video out. But well, let's get into it. We start off the chapter with sort of Ren. First off, the commentators comment that they don't know who any of the player who Shidou is, like they do with all the block players. They have no idea who the people are. But we start with kind of Ren and Shidou having a moment, another face-off again, kind of a one-to-one conversation, sort of. Isuki's there, but it's more like they're talking to each other. And we think that another fight's going to happen, but obviously neither of them are kind of stupid enough to do that right now, which is kind of really surprising. But I feel like they both know what's at stake here, even though Shidou is hot-headed. He's ready to beat Ren down on the field this time. So, because it's a football match and they're on opposing sides, I feel like Shidou's ready to face him that way, not, fight him physically one-to-one in a fist fight. But in any case, Ren talks to him and he says, or Shidou says he's been looking to beat Ren down and he's excited to show who the real number one is. And Ren responds with, yeah, I've been looking up my game. Crushing your blonde underdog roach ass. I think I got that right. He calls him a blonde roach underdog ass. So he tells him that crushing Shidou will be a good way to up his game. And I feel like he's looking at it like if he crushes Shidou, he is the true number one. And that is going to be one step closer to crushing Sei. Because Sei did acknowledge Shidou. He has acknowledged Shidou. So by picking him in some way, he partially acknowledges him. Maybe he's waiting to see how he plays in an actual game right now, but he has at least to Ren has acknowledged Shidou more than Ren himself. So I think Ren sees it like if he crushes Shidou, Shidou will be another step in his goal towards his brother. Right. So we move on, and immediately we see Shidou just bouncing all around, doing his crazy, kind of movements, and he's kind of trying to confuse everyone, both on his team and on Blue Lock. And a star of this chapter, again, nice to see him, Niko kind of notices that Shidou is not playing randomly. He's trying to confuse everyone in order to be on the right spot. He's not seeing this as an 11-on-11. He sees this as a 1 versus 21, is how Niko observes it. And Niko decides that he will be the last line of defense against Shidou. He will keep an eye on only Shidou. Or at least that's how I read it. He's going to focus on Shidou. It doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter if Sei is going to shoot. He's going to keep an eye on Shidou. And we find out later in the chapter that was a good idea. But before we get to that, right, Niko's observing him. Shidou's doing rampant kind of erratic movements. And Sei brings the ball up. And we notice that the under 20 players, including Sendo, the former striker, or at least not the former striker, but the former star, as of this point, of the under 20 team, is helping Shidou with one-touch passes, with 1-2s. And he's just acknowledging that, he's kind of begrudgingly acknowledged that if it's to win, he'll do it, but he is now not the star of the show. So Shidou is kind of already taking over the team just with Sei's help and kind of Sei's influence and his kind of overall talent, especially in the penalty area. It's interesting that, as well, Chigiri, when he's covering Shidou, he says that they weren't planning for Shidou to link up with the other players in the under 20 because he had such trouble kind of reacting, kind of playing with the Blue Lock players. And Ego earlier in the match is like, hey, I'm not going to make any changes because, that cardboard cutout of a coach isn't going to do anything. And we planned for this. We planned to play against Shidou. They won't fall apart that easily, but they kind of do. That's the weird thing. They do kind of fall apart when they don't realize that Shidou and the under 20 players can link up. But what is interesting is Niko, who acts as a last line of defense, is able to stop it momentarily. He stops the shot that gets off from Shidou, right? And I know I'm kind of jumping all around with the chapter, but I am reviewing it. So it's not really a live reaction. I'm kind of talking about it as a whole, so bear with me. But on the topic of Niko, his foot is emphasized in the last panel, and some people are theorizing that he might get injured, which they do have 3 subs, and we do kind of need to see some other players. But I feel kind of bad if it was Niko because that was a great defensive play, but he has had 2 moments already now. And I'm trying to think of who they would put in as a center back to cover up, to kind of make up for his defensive ability. I wonder who Ego would select to put out there who could have a good defensive ability. But aside from that, they were not expecting Sei and the other Unsworn players to link up with him. So I'm curious if to how what Ego wants, because he talks about how he wants to see the egoist that Sei Itoshi desired. So I'm wondering if he's just curious as the audience or whoever else is readers how Shidou will do, because I'm wondering if he thinks that Shidou will be the final step to bring out Ren's ego. That might also be a thing, because if we talk about how Ren wants to see Shidou as a threat, or he acknowledges him and he wants to get over that hurdle, I wonder if Ego thinks the same thing in the fact that Shidou will be an obstacle that will unlock kind of Ren's ability even further. So I'm curious about that aspect of the match, how Shidou will play to it in terms of how he will affect other players and maybe unlock their ability and kind of progress them as players as well. But back on that Niko thing, I wonder if Baro could come in, because he's physical, but he's selfish, so I don't think he'd want to play. He wouldn't know how to play center back. Not that he wouldn't know how to play it, but he wouldn't do his best because he wants to score goals. But anyway, another thing I wanted to talk about with this chapter, besides kind of Shidou's involvement and kind of the Ren and Shidou aspect, we talked about Niko, is the talk about the main character himself, Isagi Yoichi. Now, I see a lot of people have been talking over the course of this match, especially before the second half ended. Are the author and drawer, are they putting Isagi on the back burner? Are they treating him like fodder? And I don't think that's the case, because we see Isagi's thoughts pretty much every chapter, barring the flashback chapter. Every other chapter, we see Isagi react and think about things and be involved in the match. And even Ego's like, do you see yourself as a side character? He's like, no. And some have argued, hey, calm down, it's a slow burn, but I see a lot of people kind of talking about how Isagi has been put to the side for this whole match. And that's somewhat to be expected, just because Isagi doesn't have high physical stats. He plays better as the match goes on because he has high field vision and he's good with spatial awareness. He has to adapt quickly, which is his strength. The series has acknowledged that. It has acknowledged that Isagi's biggest strength is his ability to adapt to the match. And he even acknowledges, and he says something very interesting in this chapter. The first person to adapt to Shidou being on the field and his erratic behavior will be the one to take control of this match. Will be the hero of this match. So we need to see. Sorry, guys. We need to see how Isagi responds to Shidou. And I don't think the author is putting him on the back burner just because he hasn't scored a goal yet. He hasn't, I understand he hasn't gotten a major steal or anything like that, but he was involved in the first play of the match. He was the first attacking attempt of the match. Bachira kicked the ball to him, and he immediately was going to score if Aiku Oliver was not there to block it. So he was he was the first person to attack. Let's not act like they're just ignoring him. He's just not the main focus of the chapters right now, because there's 11 Blue Lock players, and you can't just have Isagi do everything. He was a part of the first attack, he was helping Ren attack, he was a part of the first attack, and he helped Ren attack. So I don't think he's being put on any sort of back burner. Let's not worry about Isagi right now. I think that's kind of a weird thing to get kind of antsy about. The time will come. He'll have it's not an ass pull for him to have the reflex moment. He showed it he showed it 1 in a previous match. 2, he's been playing this whole time. 3, he was involved in the attack, like I just mentioned, and Ren attacking. He's been involved. So it's not an ass pull if he does it, especially considering he did it in a previous match with Shidou and Ren on the field. So let's not worry about that. I just wanted to address that because I've been seeing it kind of in the comments on Reddit and on Twitter a little bit. So just glad we addressed that. Moving on. The next chapter is called Dragon Drive, and it's pretty obvious it's going to be about Shidou continuously. And what I think is going to happen is, even though Niko caught the ball and he blocked the shot to end this chapter, I think they're not going to be able to clear the ball, which is it's a football term for when you obviously clear the ball out of the penalty area to stop any further attacks after a shot is blocked. Just for anyone wondering what I just meant. But clear the ball, I think they're going to fail that, and Shidou's somehow going to get the ball again through some weird, athletic stuff. Maybe an under 20 player picks it up on the edge and gives it back to him. But I think Shidou's going to get another shot opportunity next chapter real quick and get a score on and equalize. I think that's what's going to happen, because it wouldn't make sense if he got stopped after putting on both chapters, after his introduction chapter and his follow-up chapter. It's really one called Dragon Drive. I think that he is going to score next chapter off a second chance ball that another under 20 player gets. He's going to do something like a bicycle kick or something crazy. But that's sort of my prediction for next chapter. I kind of wanted to address the end of the chapter and what's going on with that. Again, I don't know if Niko's injured, and somebody mentioned it because of Isagi's reaction, like his face was really panicky, and I just think that's just because he was surprised. I don't think it has to do anything with injury, but the foot was emphasized in the panel, both the top panel and his shot block and Isagi's face. It could make sense if he got injured because of that play, but again, I don't know who they replace him with. I'd be interested to see. But anyway, guys, that is the chapter. It's a quick one this week. Sorry about the nose again. Sorry about the kind of the nasally voice, but hopefully I get better soon. If you like the video, guys, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you like Blue Lock content. I appreciate it, guys. Until next time. Wait.